of this dipole moment with this theta. It is not technically perpendicular. So this has this form P2, the y20 behavior, 1 minus 3 cosine square theta by r cube. And same behavior in electric and magnetic case. In the magnetic case is the magnetic permeability times dipole moment square by 4 pi. It is the electric dipole moment by 4 pi epsilon 0. And this beta is some kind of tunability. You can tune it by a rotating field. So this is done in the following. So what happens is to increase the share, increase the dipole interaction compared to the contact interaction. So there is a balance between dipole interaction and contact interaction, and this is the shape of a condenser which is mostly spherical. Now we see that if you make the dipole moment a little larger than the range of the contact interaction, strength of the contact interaction, it becomes a little longer in this direction because of dipolar attraction. If it is further increased, the dipolar interaction is further increased, it still becomes longer, it becomes elongated, it aligns along the dipole moment. So the tuning is done in this way. The tuning means that if you have a rotating magnetic field, you can force the dipole moments to rotate around the z direction. So rotating magnetic field is put like this in the xy plane. So you have the small magnetic field in the z direction to align the dipole moment, and on top of that you have a rotating magnetic field in the xy plane. Once it rotates, the dipole moment starts rotating, the tiny magnet starts rotating, and the average value of the dipole moment along the z direction is reduced. Once it is reduced, because this rotates, and this will be the projection which will make a cosine theta, cosine phi angle with the z axis. So it is reduced. So that will give an average value of the dipole moment in the z direction, which can be reduced to 0 or even to some negative value. And this is called the tuning. And so you can make the dipole interaction in laboratory, either to take any value between the original dipole moment and 0, or some value to the negative side. You can up to half of the dipole interaction, strength of the dipole interaction. So this is one way of tuning the dipole interaction. So you can do engineering, you can do different types of experiments with variable dipole interaction with the same atom. So this is the mean field Grosby-Tyarsky equation, which is used yesterday I shown in the absence of the dipole moments. This is the equation. So you have, this is the kinetic energy, this is the potential, and this is the nonlinear term. And this comes due to interaction between the atoms, which here is only the contact interaction. So this kinetic energy term is against confinement, and this can favor confinement when there is attractive force. And yesterday Professor Luis Santos showed that if you have a dipole interaction, you have still another attraction here. There, another interaction there due to dipole moment. So if the combined interaction is attractive, then you have the possibility of forming a bound state, or possibility of forming a solution. What is a solution? Suppose if you go to one dimension. Now before that, another interesting thing I shall talk about, how to tune before going to the formation of the solution, how to tune the scattering length from positive to negative values. There are several ways to tune this thing also. So if you get one type of atom, it has a fundamental dipolar interaction and a fundamental atomic interaction, short range atomic interaction. We can easily change this in the laboratory. The potential remains the same, but the effective interaction can be changed to a smaller or larger value. So this can be done in case of the contact interaction by applying a laser or a magnetic field. This is done in this way. Suppose this is if you have two atoms, the effective potential in the open channel, suppose you have aligned sodium atoms or aligned rubidium atoms. So effective potential between two rubidium atoms is like this. This is open channel, this is the potential. So it stays in that potential. So it is the real potential, not the scattering length effective interaction. This is the real potential between two atoms. It has a small hole and the range is about angstrom, few angstroms. So it stays in this channel. So usually suppose we take sodium atom or rubidium atom, the electronic spin is the last electron spin is considered parallel. So there is not attractor form a bound state. But you can have a closed channel, another channel, which is coupled to this system by the basic interaction and spin angular momentum conservation, the potential and the spin angular momentum conservation, and this is called the closed channel. Suppose in that channel, the two atoms have opposite spins, electronic spins opposite, and they attract each other. But this is an excited state. So if you take two rubidium atoms and low channel, this channel is closed. These atoms cannot be formed. Suppose you take two hydrogen atoms in the ground state and start the dynamics. At low energy, you cannot form an excited state of the hydrogen atom in the P state or D state and so on. So those are called closed channels, but nevertheless coupled to this channel by some potential or by some dynamic. So this is this. And the scattering length, if you have studied a little bit of scattering theory, is the limit of the T matrix, which is sum of all interactions in quantum mechanics. If you do quantum mechanical dynamics, with a potential, using the Schrodinger equation, we have to sum a series of interactions like this. One potential plus two potential, two interactions, three interactions. Classically, they can collide only one time because of the potential, but quantum mechanically they can collide many times. So you have to construct the T matrix, and the scattering length is the limit of the T matrix. And if you have a resonance state or a bound state, the T matrix becomes infinity. So this is a bound state, the red state is the bound state of the T matrix of the coupled system in this channel. So idea is that if you can move to the bound state, or if we can take our energy to the bound state, then we shall have a resonance because it has a pole in the T matrix. But how do I do that? So the closed channel, the two atoms have antiparallel spin, the electronic spin. The last electron spin is antiparallel, and in this open channel is parallel. So if we apply an external uniform magnetic field, what will happen that it will accumulate magnetic energy in the spin parallel channel, because both electrons will gather some energy because of the external magnetic field. But the closed channel, which I told that they have antiparallel spin and they attract and form a bound state, the magnetic energy of the one electron will cancel the magnetic energy of the other electron, so it will not change any magnetic energy. So what will happen, you can give a shift in the total energy of the open channel. So it can go to the pole, bound state pole, or go up. So you can move on both sides of the pole. So if you go to the pole, then the T matrix becomes infinity and the scattering length becomes infinity. If you go to one side of the pole by increasing the magnetic energy, because the difference between the open channel and closed channel is only in energy. By changing the energy, you can move up and down your dynamical situation. In between the dynamic but at a different energy. So what will happen that you will go to both sides of the T matrix. And T matrix induces a pole in the whole dynamics. So the scattering length will become infinite, positive or negative depending on what is the situation of energy. So this is the magnetic field which is plotted, and this is the scattering length in the open channel. What happens by increasing the magnetic field, you can make this scattering length go to minus infinity, then plus infinity, and then come to a smaller value. So you can set it at any number you like, in principle. If there is a closed channel with a bound state pole like this. So this is called Feshbach engineering of the scattering length. And this can be done also by optical Feshbach resonance, where the coupling is done by a laser. There is no dynamical coupling, but there is another closed channel where there is a pole here, and the coupling is done by a Raman resonance of between the two channels, and not by an external magnetic field. So this is done by a laser which has the appropriate energy, then this also can vary in this fashion. So we can change in principle both the dipole interaction and also the scattering length of the contact interaction. So we can change both short range interaction and also the long range interaction in this way. So we can have a variety of types of systems. So now the dipole moment of the chromium atom, there are several atoms which has been used in making Bose-Einstein condensate. The chromium atom has 6 times Bohr magneton, dysprosium atoms has 10 times the Bohr magneton, and yttrium atoms have 7 times Bohr magneton. But we can define a dipolar length here. It is defined like this, because this is the magnetic moment square times mass of the atom divided by this. So dipolar interaction, there is a coefficient here. This is the coefficient is taken here, and this has dimension of length. So this is proportional to magnetic moment square times mass. So these things, because the mass came from by multiplying it, this is h bar square, so it could not read this computer, so it became something. So, yeah, this is h bar square. So if the mass of the atom is heavy, then the strength of dipolar interaction increases. This length increases, and if the magnetic moment is large, this also increases. So this is called dipolar length. This measures the strength of the dipolar interaction, and A is the scattering length, which you can compare with this length, so you know whichever is stronger. So this A0 is the Bohr radius, and this is the dipolar length. So the equation looks like this, because you had this part in dimensionless units. This is the kinetic energy part, this is the trapping potential, this is the contact interaction, non-linear term, and this term is non-local. This is an integration over the dipolar potential, and so this becomes the new equation, and this is this. This integration, this has a 1 by r cube term, but this integral is perfectly finite. It does not diverge because it's multiplied by the correct wave function. So this contributes to the Hamiltonian, and this integral is finite. And this is usually evaluated in going to momentum space, as was commented yesterday. We shall not go into all this. Now, what is a soliton in one dimension? Soliton is in one dimension because of the balance between this linear dispersive term, which wants to take it away, and the combination of these two terms can bring it together.
Just one question. How can I solve this equation numerically?
This is a big story, so I shall not go into that now. Yes, how to solve, because this is very difficult. So it looks very difficult, but it has been pointed out by mathematicians. They had idea, and in this context, Professor Luis Santos, he wrote a classic paper. He showed that if you can change this, a Fourier transformation of this term, of the everything, the dipolar interaction and this thing, that the convolution integral. So this is a non-local integral. This is you have R prime and R. You go to momentum space by a convolution theorem, then you can eliminate the non-local part. There will be no non-local part. You have a much simpler integral in momentum space. But you have to go to the momentum space by a Fourier transformation. And Fourier transformation is not easy because you have to integrate over oscillating functions. Sine, cosine, this type of functions. Or you can do some other transformation like Bessel-Henkel transformation. You go to some kind of momentum space integrating over oscillating functions. There are routines to do that, subroutines and programs to do that, but you lose precision. It is no longer so accurate. Like if you can solve in coordinate space a problem like this with very high accuracy, the accuracy will be reduced, but you can solve it. So you evaluate this term in the momentum space, and by that convolution theorem, it becomes a local integral, like a dk, k, no k prime. Because of this k prime, the integral is more complicated, but at least a local integral you have to do. Then take inverse Fourier transformation and come back to coordinate space, and then you recover this term and then solve like this. Then it becomes like the contact interaction term, and sum with this and solve it the way you were solving before. But that is a big story. So we solve it following his prescription. The soliton in one dimension is this. This is a three-dimensional equation, and basically, usually there is no soliton in three dimension. That is a soliton in three dimension or two dimension, it's a lie. But what is soliton in one dimension? But the mathematicians define a soliton in one dimension. It's like this. Suppose this kinetic energy is one dimensional, d2 dx square, and these are all x. No, there's nothing like no r. Then it is possible that this term and this term, there's a balance between the two, and without the potential, the tracking potential, this has a solution. This equation has a solution, this equation has a confined solution of bound state without the interaction. So this, if that is possible, that's a soliton in one dimension. So it comes from a balance between the repulsive kinetic energy and attractive nonlinear interaction in one dimension. And for certain types of nonlinear attraction, it has certain conservation laws, and they call it integrable because of the conservation law of energy, momentum, and other things, because this conservation law. This system is called integrable by mathematicians, and this becomes robust. This cannot escape because there are certain conservation laws. So what happens that you hit the soliton, it becomes deformed, but it again gets back the shape because of the conservation. Maybe it's conservation of angular momentum, maybe it's conservation of linear momentum, maybe it's conservation of the energy. So it cannot change because of those conservations. And unless you forcefully violate those conservations. So this is called mathematically integrable solution in one dimension. But this kind of solution is not possible in two or three dimensions. But our world is three-dimensional world. So we can try to simulate that situation as close as we can to define a three-dimensional, two-dimensional solution, or a one-dimensional solution in three-dimensional world. So this is the mathematical definition of solution. This is one equation, simple equation. This is not real Grotowski-Zhaevsky equation, but it's a fake Grotowski-Zhaevsky equation in one dimension. And this text is formed, and this is the solution. The solution is absolutely stable, and this is the bright soliton of the one-dimensional Grotowski-Zhaevsky equation. So what is the analog in three dimensions? If we can want to simulate this picture in three dimensions, we put a strong trap in y and z direction and no field in x direction. There is no potential in x direction. So this will make a soliton, one-dimensional soliton in three-dimensional world.
Just a question, please.
Yes.
Why we are not soliton at 2D?
Why there is none?
Yes.
I do not know why there is
Because
none, but
at
nobody
2D,
knows. You can. I should talk about soliton,
Mhm.
but it is not any mathematically integrable soliton in the sense of the one-dimensional soliton. Yes.
If you do a simple Gaussian answer,
Yes.
simple Gaussian answer,
Yes.
right? Then you see that even without doing the Gaussian answer, you take the interaction energy, and the interaction energy in a dimension d
Yes.
goes with density, so it's 1 over length to the power d.
Yes.
Yes. You take the kinetic energy, and the kinetic energy always goes like 1 over L squared. Yes, which is kinetic energy. So now you plot energy, something like constant times 1 over L squared minus, because it's attractive, constant times 1 over L to the power d, right? 1 d, right? And then you plot it. In one dimension you get something like this. You get a minimum. In two dimensions you get L squared and L squared, right? So either it goes like this or it goes like this. In three dimensions it's like this. So
So you have to balance. Okay. And in the 2D dipolar interaction, the soliton you suggested, what happens there if you plot?
if you plot it, you can get a minimum.
You can get
A minimum.
a minimum,
Yes.
but
This is why you have a two-dimensional solid.
yeah, I know there is a minimum. So, but is it integrable? Is that
No, because if
is
it's
that
a solitary wave,
yes, but it's not.
and if you have a solitary wave in one dimension, it is integrable in the sense that it's not only a solitary wave,
Yes.
but it's really a particle in the sense that they crash together and they go apart.
Yes, at any velocity they go.
It does not matter. It's not. It's elastic.
Yes.
You have two solutions,
Yes, yes.
right? And when you add it here, it's a complicated. It's a non-linear effect, but it doesn't matter because they are solutions. They just simply cross each other,
And
and then the
two
only thing that you get a phase. In the
Two
case of the dipolar gas, this is not an integrable system.
This is not an
So
integral.
it's a solitary wave. It keeps the form. But if you mix two of them, then you get inelastic shows.
Inelastic at low velocities and very high velocities.
So it's not
looks elastic.
it's not, if you want the strictly speaking mathematical physics, it's not a soliton,
Yes.
but rather a solitary.
Yeah, it's very close to soliton. That's not a soliton. That's what I thought. So one dimension, you can have a balance and you can make a soliton like this because of the conservation laws. So it hits at any velocity, it cannot be destroyed, it comes out. But that doesn't happen in 2 or 3 dimensions, even if we can simulate a soliton in 2 and 3 dimensions. It does not have the integrability. So what is formation of soliton in 3 dimensions? We can take the equation in 2 in 3 dimensions and try to see what happens. Because our world is 3 dimensional. We have to simulate these things or fake, do something to see this in 3 dimensions. So this is what was done by first experiment of Hewlett, published in 2002, in case of lithium condenser, lithium-7. The lithium-7 interaction is only contact interaction but attractive. So he was able to simulate soliton by that contact interaction, and this is a picture of that, and there are some peaks in this x direction, and there is no magnetic field in that direction. It's free, and it is bound by only the atomic interaction, just like that. So this is the picture. This was done in experiment. So this is one-dimensional soliton. So one soliton goes, it hits the other, and the other side it comes back. It's not destroyed. And this happens at any velocity, high velocity, low velocity, and this is the property integrability or conservation laws. So non-dipolar 3D solitons, what happens that if the attraction, atomic attraction, there is only one potential, which is the short range delta function potential. If it is strong, it can make a soliton. Provided it put a trap in perpendicular direction, it can move in one direction. But what happens is that the number of atoms is very small. This law is satisfied. We have a solution of the equation when this is satisfied. N is the number of atoms, A is the scattering length, and L is the trap length, the trap parameter. So this is the nonlinearity in the GP equation, and which is very small. So you cannot put too many atoms. If you put too many atoms, there will be too much atomic attraction, and it will collapse. So it can be, depending on the trap used in the laboratory, it can be few hundred to 1,000 maximum.
But
Not really.
why do you call it a soliton?
Huh?
This is not a
It's
soliton.
not a soliton, but
It's not even a solitary wave.
it's a solitary wave, one dimension.
But,
In
but
three
this is a
dimensional.
three-dimensional.
Huh?
You are talking here about a three-dimensional trap, or?
No, this is the one-dimensional soliton. It's a one-dimensional soliton prepared by Hewlett in three-dimensional lithium condensate.
Okay.
Prepared in the three-dimensional lithium condensate with no trap in the x direction and trap in y and z direction. But this limit is like this, so it can accommodate a small number of atoms. So dipolar solitons in three-dimensional world. This is not a three-dimensional soliton. Maximum one or two-dimensional soliton, and also solitary wave, not a real integrable soliton. In the sense that it is very, very robust that due to the conservation law. But the dipolar solitary wave, the dipolar soliton in three dimensions is more stable than a non-dipolar soliton. So what you do is something like this. You take this wave function, Brzezinski's wave function, you put in y and z direction, it's bound in the trap, and this is the solitary wave you get out of this approximation. So you study put these ansatz in the Grosky-Type's equation, and you have a trap in y and z direction. It is possible to integrate out using the known trap in that direction, and you get a simpler equation in one dimension. The dipolar soliton can be more stable due to short range atomic repulsion and long range attraction, as in matter in bulk, like in all potentials. So you can form bright soliton and vortex solitons. Vortex solitons is something which was shown yesterday in the last movie of rotating rings. So that has angular momentum conservation. Something like that in those rings. They have an angular momentum. So if you do the calculation using the dipolar system, they look like this soliton in one-dimensional world. There is no field in the x direction, in this direction, but there is a field in the perpendicular direction, so it cannot go escape in that direction, and this direction is held by the dipolar attraction. And we have set the contact repulsion so that it cannot easily collapse in the center. So this is a bright soliton of 1000 atoms, chromium atoms, with ADD, this dipolar strength of chromium atoms in 15 times A0, and this A is kept at 0.5 nanometer, which is 10 A0, and this is a vortex soliton of 1000 atoms. This is vortex soliton of 1000 atoms. This is a bright soliton of 1000 atoms. This is vortex means it is rotating, so there is a hole in the middle. 1000 atoms, so ADT equal to 1000 A0 is much higher dipole moment, and we also took a much higher scattering length, 80 A0. So this is the value of chromium condensate, which is 15 A0 is the dipolar length for chromium, and for dysprosium is 130. So when I did this calculation, there is no dysprosium condensate, so we took an arbitrary large number, 100 A0. But dysprosium is 130, which is close to this. This is similar to dysprosium condensate. So now I show something. This figure is very interesting. This looks very clumsy, but the interesting feature is this is the number of atoms you can accommodate in the soliton, and this is the scattering length in nanometers in this direction. So suppose this red line is for dysprosium condensate. This blue line is for vortex, and this red line is for bright soliton, chromium condensate, this red line, dotted line. So in this scattering length, this is the ADD of chromium, which is 15 A0, and here it falls at a little less than 1 nanometer. So if this scattering length is bigger than ADD, the contact repulsion bigger than the dipolar attraction, the system cannot be bound. There will be more repulsion than attraction. The system cannot be bound. The system can only be bound when the dipolar interaction, dipolar length is bigger than the scattering length. So in this region, the system can be bound. And when here the contact interaction is negative, means contact interaction is also attractive. So in that direction. So you see that this is the maximum number of atoms you can accommodate. So contrary to what you believe, if you have large contact interaction, you can accommodate small number of atoms. And here you have contact repulsion, but the same system, you can accommodate almost infinite number of atoms. So you can accommodate less number of atoms in dipolar condensate when the contact interaction is attractive, contrary to what you believe in the soliton. And this is the other part here. It simulates something of dysprosium, which is a much higher dipole moment. And if you have the contact repulsion very high, it can accommodate a large number of atoms in this kind of soliton. If the contact repulsion is low or contact interaction is attractive, you cannot accommodate so many atoms. So it has to be repulsive to accommodate large number of atoms in this kind of solitons. And there is a picture for vortex soliton. If it is rotating, you can accommodate more atoms because it does not easily come to the center. It cannot easily collapse. It can collapse if the attraction is very strong, but if it is rotating around the soliton axis, it has a tendency to go apart due to centrifugal force. So you can accommodate more number of atoms in this case. So to study the soliton stability, as you pointed out, you give some perturbation and see if it is destroyed. You give some small perturbation, if it is destroyed, or it comes back to the original position. One-dimensional soliton, integral soliton with correct conservation laws, it will always come back unless the force is too strong. It will always come back to the original stable configuration. And this also comes back unless the force is too strong. So what happens, this is I showed after this small perturbation the oscillation of the radius. In case of bright soliton, the oscillation of the two radius in the z direction is the soliton direction, this is the trap direction. In both directions they oscillate. And same for the vortex solution. Both keep on oscillating. So we show soliton-soliton interaction, whether this is really possible to have the soliton. Okay, how much? When did I start? How much time I had?
10:30.
Huh?
It's 10:30. Yes. 30. No, 35. 35 minutes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So now I'll see whether the soliton is destroyed by interaction. This is interesting to see. So if you, okay, it's not so stable as one-dimensional soliton. But if the velocity is high, the soliton, they pass through each other without deformation. But if the velocity is slow, they are deformed and they may even form a molecule if the velocity is very slow. So that is what we have shown by simulation. So a soliton comes here, this is a soliton comes from this direction and this direction, this is the pictures at different times. So the solitons are here, they come close to each other, the solitons come close, they come close, interact, and then they go out, they have roughly the same shape. And this is a vortex soliton plotted in the same way. This gap means the vortex core. So they come and go out. So this is the soliton, elastic soliton, a bright soliton, elastic collision. They come and then they go out. The dipolar soliton. The velocity is something like 3 millimeters per second. It's comparable to sound speed. And it is not destroyed. It's not very large velocity. It's reasonable velocity.
Is it a bound state?
It's a soliton.
Is it a bound state of the solitons? No.
No, there is no bound state. It comes out, you see. So this is the time in, say, in milliseconds. So it comes, heats and goes out, and then it's a simulation. This is showing the same picture again and again. But this is the bound state of the solitons when they are placed at large distance. They come close to each other and then they cannot escape. And we did the same simulation with vortex solitons. Vortex solitons have a hole in the middle. They hit, come close to each other, hit, and then come out. This is 10 milliseconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is time. And this is an interesting picture. This is a low velocity. It's a millisecond is 400, 500 milliseconds. Time is shown there up to 1000 milliseconds. But they cannot escape. It doesn't come out at low velocity. This forms a soliton molecule. Dipolar soliton molecule, vortex molecule.
So this, as we showed, is because you transfer kinetic energy into vibrational modes.
Yes,
droplets.
exactly that.
And an elastic process like with a molecule. You take two particles, they collide, and then go down. If they go very, very quickly,
they cannot do that.
yes, but this is somehow very expected, no? Because
Yes.
if I throw it very quickly,
Yes.
much faster than the time that it takes to transfer to internal degrees of
Yes,
freedom,
yes.
simply go through.
Yes. But if you are a real soliton, it will always come out with integrable soliton. But this is not a real soliton. But now I'll show something more interesting and new. This is dark in bright dipolar soliton. What is dark in bright dipolar soliton? We have a bright soliton which you can see. Dark means absence of mass or low density. So can you put a low density region in this soliton? Yes, you can put. Like if you have a harmonic oscillator state, it's a Gaussian state. It goes up, our harmonic oscillator. But what is the first excited state of the harmonic oscillator? One-dimensional harmonic oscillator, potential, linear harmonic oscillator. It has a zero in the middle. So this has the shape of a dark and bright soliton. So you can do the excited state of the bright solitone. What we do, we can do the calculation, and the excited state of the bright solitone has this picture. This is the bright solitone in the bottom, which we considered so far. This is the excited state of the bright solitone, and this is as stable as the ground state. And this was calculated with the, for dysprosium thing, 1000 dysprosium atoms with A equal to 80 A0, very large repulsion, and ADD is 132.7 A0. So, but whether it can call this a solitone, whether it can, it is very stable. Of course, I shall show that it is very stable, and it can be created in the laboratory. I shall show how, I shall point out. And it can do similar types of collision. It can undergo similar types of collision. So this is very big because we created a hole in the middle. Here the central density is very high. Here central density is 0. So this is more extended. Like the first excited state of the harmonic oscillator is more extended in space than the ground state. Ground state is more compact. They make the probability 0. So this is more extended. So now we see the phase diagram, the stability diagram, where it is stable. So this green line is taken from the other figure. But here they, for erbium and dysprosium, erbium has 66.6 A0, that is the dipolar length, ADD, and dysprosium has 132.7. So you see this is 0 of scattering length, contact interaction, and this is 120 A0. 120 A0 is around 6 nanometer, and this is the number of critical number of atoms. So here the contact repulsion increases, and we have a fixed value for the dipolar interaction. So green line is for the dark in bright solitone, and blue line is for the ordinary ground state, the bright solitone. So you can accommodate more atoms in the dark in bright solitone, but eventually everything collapses. You cannot accommodate infinite number. And you can again accommodate more atoms when the contact repulsion is large. Because ordinary intuition will tell that if you put more contact repulsion, they cannot be bound. But no, they can be bound with more number of atoms, because the contact repulsion acts at small distance, gives stability to the system, and the dipolar attraction they appear at large distance and make the system bound. Keep them together, a contact repulsion gives stability. So you can accommodate more number of atoms with more repulsive system. But if the contact repulsion is larger than dipolar attraction, then the system escapes. It cannot be bound. So A has to be less than ADD. So the collision of two dark in bright solitones. You have a dark in bright solitone, I put the one-dimensional density. So there is a hole in the middle, one solitone here. What we plot here is the one-dimensional density of the red figure, dark in bright solitone, integrated. This is the one-dimensional picture. So I did not make three-dimensional movie in this case. So one-dimensional picture shows that there is a solitone, because there is a maximum and there is another maximum. In the middle there you have a hole. In the middle you have a hole, and they come in this is time direction, 0 to 10. So they come here, come out like this. But this is at reasonably high speed, they cannot transfer energy, and so they pass through each other like in the other case. So there is something called snake instability in this kind of solitones, because people studied this kind of object before in non-dipolar systems where there is no dipolar interaction. So this is interesting that they said that this kind of object is always unstable in laboratory, because they had no dipolar interaction, only contact interaction. So they could not set any direction free. They had to put trap in 3 directions because there is no attraction. And what is famous, known as, because in the presence of trap, is the snake instability. So this is the hole. This is a contact bound interaction bound system. Bound beam Bose-Einstein condensate. Here is the 0. Just put the 0 here. But if you evolve in time, what happens that the 0 that become like this, like this, like this. In case of non-dipolar systems, because they have a trap in that direction, in this direction. The non-dipolar system, it is bound only by contact interaction, but contact interaction is repulsive, taken to be repulsive. So you have to put a trap. But this line you can form, you can find in the bound state, under traps in 3 directions, but it is nevertheless unstable. So it disappears. Even if you force them to take this shape at t equal to 0, it disappears later. And there is a snake instability in Fermi gas, and this was studied by Professor Stringari and other people. This was the 0, and it keeps on oscillating, and with time it disappears. So this structure disappears. But in this case, there is no snake instability. Snake instability is that the minimum they move in the both directions. They keep on zigzagging and then disappear. So to see this, what did I do? I changed the middle of the soliton. This is the one-dimensional density plot. The red is the correct density. Some correct density plot will be symmetric on both sides and 0 in the middle. I changed the middle of this. Instead of 0, I put it in -2. I forcefully changed the middle to start the oscillation. But what I find that because of the stability of the system, it immediately comes back to 0. It does not oscillate, and this is the time propagation. The density plot is very stable. There is no snake instability here. Unlike in this picture, studied at Trento in the Fermi gas, but there is snake instability in the dark in bright soliton. Here there is no snake instability. I move the center to the side, it comes back to the center again. It is stable in that sense. But how to make this thing in laboratory? Can this thing be made in the laboratory? In numerical calculation, you put an antisymmetric initial state and your calculation converts to this, with a 0 in the middle. Yes, it can be made in the laboratory. There is a technique to imprint a phase by laser on a condensate. This I do not understand 100% how it is done, but it can be done in the laboratory. You put a certain uniform magnetic field for some time in half of the condensate. Once you do that, half of the condensate wave function, it acquires an extra phase of pi. That means the wave function was, you take a normal condensate. A normal condensate has a maximum in the middle. And if you imprint the phase by a uniform magnetic field of a detuned laser, the wave function of the condensate becomes very strange. I don't know whether you can see. It was like this before. This is the wave function. And you can make the wave function like this. So this has been done in laboratories. So this is a phase imprinting by a constant magnetic field of a laser, detuned laser. You can imprint this phase. You can change the wave function. So once you change the wave function and put this wave function in, set the wave function in laboratory, stabilizes in laboratory to the first excited state. So we did the poor man's experiment in computer, and this stabilizes. So this is the maximum, one-dimensional maximum is plotted here, and this means we have imprinted phase. The middle is 0, and as we are plotting square, it is still symmetric. The square of this is same as square of this. Probability is conserved. But what happens, there is 0 in the middle in the wave function. So if we do the simulation with time, the 0 stabilizes. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of time. T0 is the time scale, which is inherent of the trap in the perpendicular direction, and this is of the order of milliseconds. And so 16, 17, 19, 20, this converges to this shape. And this red one is the solution of the Grosseteste equation with a 0 introduced in the middle. This is the real bound state. This is a real dark in bright solitron. So this slowly converges to a real dark in bright solitron. So this can be made in the laboratory. This is reasonably stable. So summary and conclusion. So a new type of robust bright vortex and dark in bright solitrons encountered in repulsive dipolar BEC. Because repulsive means with contact interaction repulsive, and dipolar interaction anisotropic. So we can have frontal collision and molecule formation. And dipolar interaction is responsible for the robust nature, and this experiments needed to verify theory. And we also did we are doing some new calculation, because this kind of dipolar solitron can be stabilized in 2 dimensions also, where you put a magnetic trap in one direction, and the other 2 directions it is free, so you can print a disc type solitron, disc or ellipse type solitron in 2 dimensions. Ellipse type because the dipolar interaction is anisotropic. It depends on the angle, so it's not always this. It can be usually the ellipse type. But now we can imprint dark solitron on that. We are doing that. So we can have absence of matter in this ellipse or absence of matter in this circle, a solitron in 2 dimensions. And we are doing this calculation now. So we can collide 2 of these disks in one plane, and they pass through each other when the velocity is large, which is not unexpected, but it will not pass usually. Suppose you can try to do the same experiment without dipolar interaction. I did it, and they get very easily destroyed because they are not so stable.
But they will be destroyed even without crushing each other.
Yeah, they are easily destroyed.
So they actually don't exist.
Yeah, they are easily destroyed in 1 dimension, what I am saying. Even in 1 dimension, not in 2 dimensions. In 1 dimension, they are easily destroyed because the balance is very delicate. The balance, the bound state and prevention against collapse is done by only 1 interaction. The interaction is the attractive contact interaction. Here it is done by 2 interactions. Repulsive contact interaction and attractive dipolar interaction at 2 different length scales. So this is very stable compared to a normal solitron in non-dipolar atoms, where the binding comes from only 1 interaction, which is a short-range attractive interaction. And they are much easily destroyed. They do not survive even at high velocity, this type of collision. They get destroyed easily. So we are doing these 3-dimensional things and imprinting with dark solitron in disc and ellipse. And our preliminary results show that they are very stable. And in a plane they can go through collision, and they are reasonably elastic at large velocity. So that is the end of it. So,
Okay.
any question?
Question.
Okay. I've noticed that you skipped the numerical resolution. Can you speak?
Okay, you have to, that is a long story. You have to discretize the equation. So always you have to discretize the equation d2 dx square. So in computer, the derivative is done by y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. So you have to write these equations in that form. And the integral part, the non-local part, you have to also write as a sum. So you make the whole equation an algebraic equation in time and space, in 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension. So you have to discretize it and make an algebraic equation. How do you do an integral in computer? You make it as a sum. So integral goes from 0 to infinity. You approximate the integral by a sum over, depending on 16, 32, 64 or 1024, depending on the accuracy you want. There are many ways of changing the integral into a sum. Same here. We change the integral into a sum and the derivative into some fractions of differences of wave function and this. And then you have an algebraic equation. And depending on your taste and how much accuracy you need, you have to solve this algebraic equation with some initial condition. Because this is a differential equation, you need some initial condition to solve them. So you take the correct initial condition that the wave function is localized at the center. Suppose you want to calculate a boundary, you take a Gaussian case and it goes to 0 at extremities. And it has to maintain this boundary condition at each step. You impose the boundary condition at each step and keep on iterating. And go a little bit in the future, so that it converges to the correct solution. So that is would be a whole lecture like this.
You have huge matrices for dipolar.
Yeah, dipolar I told that the dipolar you have the integration on local integration over coordinate. You have to take the Fourier transformation of the whole thing. Then that integral becomes technical, this integral. Will become, this is very unmanageable. You did r minus r prime, this is unmanageable. So you have to take, this is the integral. So if you go to the momentum space, you take the Fourier transformation of this, it becomes u dd k in Fourier space of some k. And this becomes psi of some into the what some k dk. It can be changed to this. So you do this integration. And then come back to the coordinate space again, something like this. Come back to the coordinate space by another Fourier transformation. So I can, if you like, I can show. The thing is that the non-linear part, the r minus r prime, disappears. It becomes integral over k only. So it's still complicated, but much easier than the integral over r minus r prime. And this integral is finite, although there is a 1 by r cube behavior at short distance. This integral is always finite. So this is how it is done.
For the Grosspitansky equation, for Grosspitansky equation,
Yeah.
we can see the Bose-Einstein condensation in the butter potential?
No.
No?
No, it will not convert. You can see means can you calculate the solution without a potential? You have to put a potential in the x and y direction, in some direction in the problem. Otherwise, it will not convert to a bound state. It will escape to infinity. It will escape to infinity. It cannot be bound. For binding, you have to put some potential in some direction.
For the Kepler constant, the Kepler constant. the
Frank
A-
Nicholson, yes.
There is an effect if we change the sign, the Kepler constant will solve them. If we take, for example, if we take adaptive or
Yes.
what is the effect?
What?
The effect on the solution.
If you change the effector, the value of the scattering length, what will be the effect? So if it is a non-dipolar solidon, if you increase the A is negative, this is scattering. Suppose we go to the non-dipolar solidon. A is negative, so it gives attraction. So if you increase A, so this will be more compact, it will be smaller in size. Then if you have less attraction, if we increase the attraction by increasing A, in the non-dipolar case it will be smaller in size. And eventually if you increase A further, everything will collapse to the center, there will be no solution. It will be smaller and smaller and it will collapse. Like if a star is very large, much larger than sun, it collapses due to gravitational force because it has too much gravitational energy. So attraction brings everything to the center and collapses. So A cannot be made too attractive in the Planck-Nicholson method, then it will collapse. No solution. So you have to put a small value of A, attractive value. But in dipolar systems, A is kept repulsive and it should be kept less than the dipolar attraction. So there is dipolar attraction and contact repulsion. Contact repulsion cannot be larger than dipolar attraction. If it is larger than dipolar attraction, everything escapes to infinity. It cannot be bound. So contact attraction, contact repulsion should be less than dipolar force. So that is what is kept. But on the other hand, if we take smaller and smaller contact repulsion in the Planck-Nicholson method, smaller and smaller contact repulsion, or make it attractive, you can have only small number of atoms. You cannot have a bound state of large number of atoms. It will collapse. You can accommodate a large number of atoms. When the contact repulsion is large, A large, positive, but less than ADD, less than the dipolar interaction. But the number can be very large. But if the scattering length is larger than dipolar force, what happens? Then you have, the whole system has too much repulsion, it cannot be bound. No solution. Any other question? Anything? You can ask any other question. I take picture. No, there are many people.